Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're excited to have you with us. It's noon here in Cape Town, where we're based, and once again, we've got a fantastic session lined up for you today. This webinar is proudly brought to you by Real Estate Investor in partnership with Broll Property Group, leading the future of real estate across 37 countries in Africa and celebrating 50 years of leadership and innovation in real estate. I'm Neil Peterson. I'm the founder of REI, South Africa's leading independent platform for real estate news, investing and education since 2007. And I'll be your host and moderator today as we dive into the topic that could give you deep insights and strategies behind successful real estate companies. And at REI, we're committed to empowering real estate investors and business professionals and property professionals through our digital platform, rei.co.za, award-winning monthly magazine Real Estate Investor, and our regular live webinars and events. And today we're taking that commitment a step further. You'll also see that Malcolm Horn, who you'll see is also features prominently in our latest edition of Real Estate Investor. We'll send you a link below that you can also read about the story of Malcolm and Broll on their journey to a 50-year milestone. And we'll drop those links in the box later in the webinar. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Recordings, we get this question a lot. If you've registered for today's webinar, we'll send you a link to the recording after the event. And you can also find the recording on our website on the homepage, rei.co.za, or under the events and webinars section. And we encourage you to engage today as well. So submit your questions at any time during the session using the Q&A, or it's actually the chat box, not the Q&A box. It's a chat box. In fact, it's a Q&A box. Let me get that right. It's a Q&A box. The chat box is just for general comments. It's located on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and we'll make sure to answer as many of your questions as we can at the end part of the webinar. So let's move on to today's topic. It's charting a course for the future of African real estate through resilience and leadership. So today we will gain insights into the future of African real estate. We'll explore the latest trends shaping the market, understand how resilience and innovation unlock new opportunities. So without further ado, we're thrilled to have our 4 professional panelists from Broll Property Group here today. So first, let me briefly introduce and welcome Group CEO Malcolm Horn. He's also the key driver behind Broll Property Group. Malcolm, thank you for joining us. Would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Neil. And I think thank you very much for inviting all of us at Broll from Broll here today. I'm Malcolm Horn. I'm the Group CEO of Broll.
Absolute pleasure having you, Malcolm. And we look forward to the discussion. We're also excited to have Peter Sachera, who is the CEO of Broll Ghana. Peter, thank you for joining us. Would you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Thank you, Neil, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm Tony Setre, CEO of Broll Ghana.
Wonderful. Great having you on board. And it's good to also get a whole African perspective of what's happening in the markets and your journey. Thirdly, we have Batubile Chime. She's Divisional Director of Cushman Wakefield. Batubile, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Neil. Hi, my name is Batubile Chime, and I'm a director looking over client solutions at Broll.
Wonderful. Great having you here, Batubile. So last but not least, we have Group Head Public Sector at Broll Property Group, Manshi Moyola. So I don't know if I got that pronunciation right there, Manshi, but please correct me if I'm wrong. You're welcome to do so. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Would you introduce yourself?
Sure,
please,
thanks very much for the welcome, Neil. It's Mansi Muirwa. I'm very happy to be here.
Fantastic. It's great to have you on board. Great, guys. So let's unpack this whole thing over here. I think let's start off with you, Malcolm. And it's quite an inspirational story, I find, where Broll started. You know, it started with the management of a single block of 6 flats in Cape Town in 1975. I mean, from this humble beginning, and it really, for me, it is a humble beginning. How has Broll's leadership and vision evolved to shape the company into now Africa's full spectrum real estate service provider. I mean, it's a fantastic story, Malcolm. Please share.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. It's a great story, and I think we're privileged to be part of Broll. I think in addition to that, I think it's wonderful to have our founder still involved in our business, because we can go back and we can ask him, why did you start Broll, and what principle did you start Broll? And often I speak to Jonathan about those early days. And if you think about the early vision of Broll, it was really to provide, it was very simple, to provide exceptional property management services, and I underline property management services, build trusted client relationships, and make a difference in places where people shop, where they work, and where they live. And if I fast forward to today, where we have 62 million square meters under management, we focus on facility management, occupier services, and investor services, which is property management. The DNA of our business and the vision of our business and our leadership team actually can be pulled back to the principle of exceptional service, building long-term relationships, finding solutions, and actually making a difference and an impact in people's lives, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home, or whether it's where they shop. So a lot of the basic DNA principles of the founder of this business has been pulled through to today, and I think just become more relevant. And obviously, we become more complex. We've expanded geography, we've expanded technology, and a whole host of layers on top of the basic vision of the business. But you'll see from my colleagues that will speak a bit later, I think that absolute passion, vision of making a difference in someone's life where they live, work, or sleep or play, sits at the heart of what we do, because we're solutionists. And I think that's really the founding principles remain true to today.
That's wonderful. And Malcolm, it's so great to actually have Jonathan around today to see where the company started and and how it's grown to today. I mean, it's such, I think that's immense. I mean, he must be so proud as well in terms of, the achievements. So Malcolm, let's talk a little bit about, Broll is, I mean, you've navigated a number of economic challenges, I mean, over the past 50 years. And we can go through all of them. I mean, from the last COVID to the financial crisis to, the tech crisis. We can really name them. And I'm sure you might even take us through that. But maybe what are the key lessons in resilience and leadership that has helped Broll thrive and survive in Africa? But it's thrive. Let's use the word thrive in Africa's time, because that's exactly what you've done.
Yeah, Neil, I think first of all, we're definitely not arrogant enough to say it's an individual achievement that we've done here. This is really a collective achievement of many people across the continent over many years. But the initial visions, after the elections in '94, Broll decided there must be a world outside of South Africa. And we went to the international markets. We had a look at what the big players were doing, and we thought, why can't we do that on the African continent? And part of the lessons we learned were to diversify income streams, to find new talent in different areas of the business, to actually strengthen our financial resilience of the business. And how did we have to do that? We had to actually build new service lines. We had to pioneer markets. And I think of occupier services, which was really unknown to the market. And a lot of people in South Africa thought, what are you doing to bring and represent occupiers in a market like this? And it was tough in the beginning. There was no money in it. We really battled initially, but we persevered because we believed in the core diversifying our revenue streams in the business. And the same with facility management, the same with going to where Tony will speak to Ghana, etc., etc. So a lot of the initiatives we've done have been laid at the base of diversifying our risk as a business, making sure that our balance sheets, because again, if you're a services business, you don't own property. We are a people business. We're a human resource engine that provides solutions. So for us, it's really about building a company that is resilient, that is tough, that can weather the storms, that doesn't take risks, that take our people at heart seriously, that train, develop, and make sure that we have a strong leadership team that actually are forward long-term thinkers. And I think often one makes short-term decisions, but I think in a property services business, you have to have a long-term vision to grow the base, to grow the people, because it does take time, especially when you're pioneering markets. You have to be patient, you have to know what you're doing, and you need the commitment of a leadership team that says, we can do this thing, we can actually extend services, but it goes beyond just services. It is about developing a property sector across the continent and making a difference in people's lives. So there's a purpose linked to what we do. It's not just providing property services.
Absolutely. So maybe just to delve a little bit more into, what are the specific actions that were key to building resilience? Because I think that's important. I mean, you did all these wonderful diversification things and, new revenue streams, etc. And so maybe just share that.
Well, I think we had to do scenario planning, but no one could really plan for something like a COVID or for in KZN when we had the riots. But you couldn't just wake up that morning and say, you can do this and you can handle it. So again, the scenario planning of how do you build a resilient business? How do you build a business that caters for most eventualities, for business risk, for continuity, for driving change, and actually the trust of your client base to make sure that they have actually given you their business and they can actually leave it in your hands. It will be safe. So for us, it was really scenario planning. It was embracing client retention and understanding client strategies and what they want to do. Be nimble, be agile, understand data. For us, data is so important. It's not just a gut feel business that we do. It's about really management through data analytical initiatives that actually add value to a client's life. It can sort of predict where we're going, because we need to forward plan, and we need to make sure that our workforce, our leadership teams have got the skills ready for tomorrow. So yes, we can do the work today, but I mean, we actually building a business, and that's what this leadership team that you're going to chat to today, they're not building yesterday's Broll. I mean, we're already in the future forward path of our business. And I think that's the more exciting part, is how do we create a business that has the ability to strengthen the core of what we're doing, but we are building service lines at the periphery of our core, because we realize that we live in an ever-changing market, a market that will change, and a market that the Broll business of today will look very different in 5 years' time. So that is what we're busy doing. And to do that, you need a clean balance sheet. You need to not have a risky financial business. And we've built the resilience financially within our business, not to be dependent on one specific client, to make sure that we've got money to invest into our staff, to make sure that we can retain our staff, and obviously to service the needs of our clients and to help morph the needs of our clients in terms of what they might need tomorrow. We understand what they need today, but can we predict and be there for their needs tomorrow? And that's where our data analytics, the skill sets that we bring into the business are different, embracing technology, and yeah, that's really building resilience in a business.
Wonderful. No, thanks for setting that scene, Malcolm, and very intriguing. But it's wonderful to see a business that has grown to where it is today and how it's grown. So thank you for sharing that. So Tony, I'm going to bring you in here. What role does innovation play in the future of African real estate, particularly in Ghana? I mean, could you share some examples of how technology and innovative solutions have transformed the industry?
Okay, thanks, Neil. And as Malcolm said, the environment now is ever-changing and in a innovation age. At this moment, not a day passes without us seeing a new application that touches on every human endeavor or any human activity. And for the real estate sector within Africa, I can say that innovation comes in two forms, both evolutionary and transformational. Transformational in the sense that Broll, for example, would create adaptive solutions to certain to suit socioeconomic dynamics within any market or any region that we will set up in. And I'll give a classic example with our bespoke management software, which we have actually pioneered for the past years that we have been in existence. And I dare say that this has put us about 20 years ahead of the curve. And it has actually come to help us being able to be agile enough to deal with the innovation age that we have in now. it's created a platform where we are able to be more efficient and be adaptive to the market. And a classic example in Ghana, for example, is when Broll's relationship with actors actually grew into the opening of the first ever formal retail mall in Ghana, which is Accra Mall at this moment in time. And that introduced that professional touch and the professionalism into the market, which the market had actually been waiting for. This coincided with the turn of the millennium when Ghana was seen as a middle-income country, and therefore the environment was in dire need of that sort of service and in infrastructure, formal retail, and other infrastructure that meets with middle-income status. And in that regard, we realized that that was what the market needed at that moment. And it opened the floodgate for international investors and international players to come into the market, seeing that we have established that international best practice that would give them the comfort that their investments will be well taken care of. And from the evolutionary perspective, we realized that a lot of other competitors and all of that had also caught on to that spirit and then made attempts to come into the market following Broll's example. So the transactional sector, for example, in terms of transactions, it really opened up in terms of the data analytics, for example, created a lot of transparency in the market. The emergence of digital platforms as well has opened up such that now we're able to transact business more efficiently. We're able to do quite a lot of transactions with minimum fuss without having to travel across several regions. So innovation has been a key factor in the emergence and the development of real estate within the region.
No, wonderful. Innovation is the word. So, Batubile, let's talk about the African real estate market, which is constantly evolving. What strategies do you believe will help real estate professionals adapt to changing market conditions while ensuring, of course, you've got to keep that long-term success in mind?
Oh, thank you, Neil. As you said, the African real estate market is under this constant evolution. So as professionals, we are always tasked with thriving in a world of uncertainty and are measured on our ability to respond and recover from these disruptive events. To remain competitive and achieve long-term success, I think professionals should adopt the following. Firstly, a diversification of skills from finance to advisory to understanding the implementation challenges on the ground, because they do vary. Secondly, infrastructure remains a critical challenge across many African markets. So in order to bridge that infrastructure gap, we must engage meaningfully through public-private partnerships to drive infrastructure-led development. And I'll unpack some of that a bit later in the conversation. But thirdly, I think a diversification of assets, as Malcolm was saying. This means diversifying beyond traditional asset classes like office and retail spaces into sectors such as healthcare, real estate, student accommodation, and affordable housing. These present some interesting new avenues. In fact, just yesterday, I was chatting to a client about retirement real estate investment. And so I think it's interesting to diversify our asset classes. And then lastly, ESG has been at the forefront of most conversations. And I think African real estate is starting to align themselves with global sustainability trends. So I think overall, as a professional in the space, one must remain agile, continuously upskill themselves, and then employ forward-thinking strategies.
That's wonderful. I think it's so interesting to see the different diversification options there. And yes, we'd like to hear some more a little bit later there, Batubile. So Mansi, I want to bring you in. Can you tell us, and we've been talking about innovation. So can you tell us more about Broll's innovative culture and how you see this shaping the future of leadership in African real estate?
Yeah, look, thanks, Wendy. I think where we've come from as Broll, we've been helped by the fact that we've remained curious about, people, properties, and the market in general. And we've kind of fostered a culture of encouraging innovation and just embracing change. as opposed to resisting. And this is manifested, I would say, in the very early decision to invest and lean into the technology aspect of things. And so if I take a nod to Be Sharp, for example, that is a piece of software that we started to develop over 20 years ago, so almost half of our journey to getting here. And that has been, you know, something that was an answer to the old days of starting first to digitize things and then analyze things. I mean, at the moment we're in kind of your machine learning and your AI is on everybody's lips. But realistically, I think, what is the point of all of this? Where are we going with it? And really that is around being able to predict. You want to be able to control and automate your decisions. And so you also want to be able to observe and interpret the environment so that you can apply changes to your decision making to optimize and in managing your portfolios and this very environment. So, you know, in a nutshell, the future is actually just about capacitating real estate managers to focus on the human experience and enhancing that, not to get stuck so much into the data. Of course, you must apply yourself and make sure these things are making sense. But the point of property and all of the love and effort we put into it is really to enhance the human experience.
That, I think, is such an important part that you brought up there, the human experience. Innovate, but keep that human experience. And that's such a wonderful thing to hear. I think we've got a lot carried away with, you know, a lot of technology, AI, you know, a lot of things which are coming in, which, but we still need to utilize it, but don't take out the human element. So, Tony, I want to bring you in here. You know, as we see African cities grow, I mean, you're sitting in Ghana right now, you know, we see that sustainability becomes more critical. So how is Broll leveraging sustainability in real estate development for future resilience?
Thank you, Neil. Yes, sustainability, as we all know, has been at the forefront of every strategic conversation, both in every sector, I dare say, and in real estate is even more pronounced, given that human activity is underpinned by real estate structures. Everything that humans do in terms of activity is housed by real estate. So it is most critical that we put sustainability as part of the whole conversation all the time. And the critical aspect about it is that we need to really use sustainability to future-proof real estate developments and infrastructure. And as Manti earlier on said, that forward thinking is very key to ensuring that there is sustainability within all our operations, etc. So I believe that real estate practitioners, our role is to ensure that we lead the way in terms of these discussions and create a very sustainable environment. And that will be through both innovative designs all the way through to cutting-edge technology that will then seek to minimize the footprint of human activity on our environment. And therefore, we have to ensure in taking part of these conversations that our sustainable designs, for example, will be adaptive, and it also collaborates with the demands of modern city living. And I give an example with the emergence of smart homes, for example, which helps us to actually reduce our human activity back and forth, ensuring that there is less of a footprint. And another aspect that we certainly, or that we always do or have to do, is how we create energy efficiency across all our sectors. It is very critical given the demands now on energy and the fact that energy production is one of the biggest carbon footprints. We also need to ensure that its use is more efficient. And how do we do that? We need to implement certain initiatives within our buildings, for example, tapping into renewable sources, ensuring that our practices create that energy efficiency. Our buildings have all those features that create the energy efficiency. We also need to ensure that we have carbon credits, and those carbon credits can be yielded through effective reuse and recycling of everything that we do within our buildings and our environment. We've Broll, for example, has implemented or come into the market with a certain solution by introducing a specific or specialist service line. And that's the energy, water, and sustainability service line, which is here to actually serve our clients and advise them on, number one, if, for example, for existing buildings, how they're able to transform these buildings to tap into these sustainability goals. And for our new designs, for example, we're able to show them the path with respect to innovative design. So that has, in a way, championed the whole sustainability conversation. In Ghana, I dare say that most of the buildings we manage, we have championed to ensure that it has achieved EDGE certification, which is one of those certifications for sustainable buildings. And that has really gone a long way to create efficient systems. We have wastewater management in most of these buildings, and then the reuse and recycling innovations are quite state of the art. I must say that for real estate professionals, that should be something that becomes the buzzword within all our operations.
Yeah, just covering all bases over there. Thanks for sharing that with us, Tony. Mansi, I want to bring you back in again, because we were talking about the technology thing, and we know that, look, I mean, you know, and the impact it has on real estate. And we've seen, you know, Broll is invested in technology like the B# platform. So what? Sorry, is it B#?
B sharp.
Okay, thank you for correcting that. That's important. So what technological advancements do you foresee shaping the real estate industry in Africa the next 10 years, given that you've given this whole new platform?
I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think let's expand into the specifics, so a bit more with the specifics. So, you know, obviously digitization was one thing, but I think let's talk about what we would consider to be pretty much basic now. So yes, you want to be able to understand your baseline portfolio, be in a position to forecast your areas of risk, your areas of opportunity have to be able to be identified quite quickly. And so that you can unlock you in terms of like your efforts to actually unlock those things, because those take human elements to achieve. You know, stuff like IoT devices and so on. I think everybody has been talking about that, and digital twinning for a gazillion, maybe months, maybe not years. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, that's great, but show me now, let's move on with it. How do we take this forward on a mass scale? So, you know, from a municipal perspective, how do we revolutionize this and transform it into the way that we build? Of course, you're always going to have legacy portfolios and structures that you're dealing with. But if we really want to become like a progressive society that is in a position to optimize, so even from a resource management perspective, if you're looking at your energy, your water, and all of those kind of waste services and so on. We are massive generators and consumers of those things. And the burden to manage that effectively is really quite staggering to try and do without technology. And so those are the things, that's where I want to be seeing things coming out. We want to see, you know, whole loop kind of total recoveries that are coming out of not just us as investors and managers of assets, but also on the other side, from the guys that we fight with in the municipality, and we tell them that you got your numbers wrong. Cut my bill in half. It's not right.
Exactly. I think that's a very important conversation that you've got to have there, and you can drive that change. It's wonderful to be part of that, because I think we spoke a little bit of offline earlier with Malcolm and the team, and where the role that you can certainly play in strategic partnerships, specifically with, municipalities. But thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for, correcting me on the name of the platform as well. So it's the B
sharp.
B sharp. So ladies and gentlemen, it's B sharp platform or Broll. So thank you for that. So to our audience, if you've got any questions, I see there's 1 or 2 questions there in the Q&A box. Please fire away. Not in the Q&A box. That's correct. Put it in the Q&A box, and we'll deal with any of those questions at the end over there. Barabile, I want to bring you back in here. How important? Now we've touched on already on a few of these already. And talking about strategic partnerships over here. How have they been for Broll's continued growth? I mean, maybe can you share some insights on some successful collaborations that have helped Broll strengthen its market position? Always good to have a testimonial.
Sure, no problem. I think over the years, we've learned to approach every engagement as a partnership. So not merely as a service provider or an asset manager. And our success has been built on these collaborations, and strategic partnerships have been instrumental in strengthening our market position, expanding our capabilities into geographies and other service lines, but also delivering value-driven solutions. One of the most significant partnerships contributing to our growth is our affiliation with Cushman & Wakefield. This collaboration has enabled us to offer world-class advisory services while maintaining deep local expertise, ensuring that our clients benefit from both global insights as well as the nuanced understanding of African markets. It's also enhanced our ability to integrate technology-driven solutions, as Mansi was talking about, and set new benchmarks for the real estate sector. Looking ahead at the Broll of the next 50 years, this Broll is going into new markets, looking at different service lines, but this Broll also remains committed to fostering strategic partnerships that drive economic development and industry transformation. A prime example of this commitment is our role as a key partner at the Public Works and Infrastructure Summit. This event presents a critical platform for government and the private sector to collaborate in optimizing public assets, to drive the much-needed economic growth, and create opportunities for future generations. As a facilitator in one of the panels, my role as a representative of Broll and the public and the private sector will be on building a lasting legacy for our country, one where public-private partnerships lead to more inclusive, sustainable, and more impactful infrastructure development. And this is more than just about buildings. It's about unlocking the full potential of public assets, aligning policy to market realities, and ensuring strategic and sustainable investment while driving accountability in the asset management space. So we're so excited about that, and it's just an example, a few examples of our strategic partnerships and how they've helped us grow.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Barabile. So what I want to do now is I want to bring you back in here, Malcolm. And it's quite a big topic. It's fostering local talent. And I mean, Broll has a strong focus on talent development through the Broll Academy. So Malcolm, how important is it to nurture local talent? And what steps are being taken to create future leaders in the real estate industry? And I'm sure you've learned over the years in Africa, where moving to a country, bringing in your own people, and we find it doesn't work. So can we unpack that? Local talent.
Absolutely, Neil. Look, I mean, people are at the heart of any services business. We don't own bricks and mortar. We're a business that actually, we're people-centric. We're actually job creators at the end of the day, and I'll explain that in a few seconds. Have you frozen, or am I still okay, Neil? Oh,
no, I'm fine. Yeah.
And maybe just to touch back on what Toby's just chatted about is strategic partners and collaboration. So in the early days of the Broll Academy, I mean, we partnered with the University of Pretoria, we partnered with the TVET colleges, because we realized there was a real lack of skill in the property services sector. And so that's the South African context. In the Ghanaian context, because Tony's there, they were very far advanced. So they've got something called national service, where Broll Ghana then partnered with universities in Ghana, and university graduates came out, qualified people came into the business, and I think they still do. But I mean, how do you then nurture that talent, expose that talent to what they need to be exposed to, and actually create leaders of tomorrow, property professionals that can add value? And we found the only way to do that is to make sure you've got a structured environment. Education is one thing, but I think real experience on the ground and giving people opportunity to grow is more important, or not more important, but also important, so that you can develop the leadership skills and teams of tomorrow. And I think that's what we've managed to do. We've managed to create an environment which is structured, ordered, and we want our people to have the freedom of engaging with the market, making decisions, being exposed to good and bad, and supporting them in that journey of developing themselves. But more than that, a business like ours, I mean, we have 8,200 service providers we work with. We have 1,300 small businesses that we are supporting. So, but that goes beyond a Broll business. It goes to job creation. It goes to skill creation. It goes to partnering with government to create skills. In a country like, and I'm going to use Tony always because he's sitting here from outside of the borders. I mean, how do we develop and create service providers that provide world-class service? And I think at the end of the day, that's what our business does. We are in the game, or in the industry, of creating jobs, creating skills, making sure that the ecosystem of job creation expands, because we touch on so many aspects of the built environment and the services environment, that developing these skills is critical. Not only for the Broll business, because we don't do it to retain everyone at Broll. We do it for the industry. And normally those people do move around the industry, the professional people, but hopefully they stay with Broll and support Broll. But I think more importantly is the mandate and purpose of job creation and development of small businesses in all of the environments, all of the countries that we operate in across the continent, is so important to us, because property is an economic activator. And for us to do that, we actually fulfilling a deeper purpose in skills and job creation.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Just to our audience, please keep those questions rolling. I see there's a few. We will get to them. Thank you for your questions. We will get to them a little bit later. Thanks for that, Malcolm. So, Tony, let's talk about real estate as an economic driver. How can real estate sector contribute to Africa's broader economic development? Very important topic. And what opportunities do you see for real estate professionals to drive economic growth in the region, specifically sort of extending into elaborating what Malcolm's comments made about fostering local growth, etc.?
Yes, that is true. And this local growth is so important within the whole setup. And I think we'll speak about that at a later point. But with respect to Africa's growth, we're really in a fast-paced development paradigm now. And it is so important that real estate professionals would ensure that we are actually up in and in tune with that development and then growth of African real estate. One of the key drivers, or the key drivers of Africa's socio-economic growth, is technology and bridging the infrastructure gap. It is so important now, given that there is some infrastructure deficit within the whole of the Africa region. And therefore, it is the real estate professionals' duty to ensure that that is something that contributes to Africa's growth. Technology brings or throws up certain aspects. And there's this development of fintech and e-commerce and prop tech that has actually been at the forefront of every activity that we do in terms of industry. Fintech, for example, needs to be housed. Its infrastructure has thrown up the possibility or opportunities in the by way of data centers, for example, is one key thing, and in a popular area that investors are really that is really attracting capital. PropTech is also yielding us a lot of results with respect to efficiency, and therefore it brings through a lot of data consumption, which these data centers have thrown in. E-commerce was once touted as the innovation that will kill real estate, in that there will no longer be the need for bricks and mortar, just because everything will now be delivered online platforms where all over the place, delivery platforms all over the place. Amazon came, innovated, and we thought that we'll never need bricks and mortar anymore. But that is not the case, because as attention shifts from one asset class to another, then it creates opportunity for the next. So, for example, logistics parks have become so critical because of the emergence of e-commerce, distribution centers, all of that. And even with the agility that Malcolm was talking about earlier, for example, in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa, what we've done is that we've repurposed parts of our retail centers as collection points for online retailers. So whereas there are some vacancies, or there would be vacancies as a result of some retailers who will transition online, we have actually used and repurposed that space very effectively as collection points for e-commerce. Another aspect when it comes to the socioeconomic drivers is the fact that about 60% of Africa's population is under the age of 25. So that obviously shows you that there will be a dire need for certain infrastructure. And that's basically pointing towards housing and student accommodation, for example. Housing is so critical. The real estate professional, we need to try and curate the designs and ensure that there are models that are available to attract capital into housing for the young adult population. And there's also a very dire need for student accommodation now, given that huge population, student population that's coming on board, given the population that we have at this moment in time. So what we have been advising, Broll has been advising all our clients, is to look at these hotspots in terms of investment, because we've been very used to the traditional asset classes. And Batubile did also mention the retirement real estate, for example. This is also coming up in conversations with respect to investment, though not in across every region within Africa, but the most advanced or mature real estate markets are now catching on to that as well. So again, the real estate professionals, we need to ensure that we're catching on to these key drivers to ensure that we are contributing to Africa's growth.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Tony. And so coming back to you, Mansi, I think we've seen the evolution of real estate investment. So, with Broll managing assets valued at $3.7 billion US dollars. So what trends are you seeing in real estate investments across Africa? And how can investors identify opportunities, which I would say is an increasingly complex market?
Yeah, look, I mean, I nodded to the human experience and the importance of that a bit earlier. So when you then start looking at it from an investor perspective, I think it goes back to that fundamental that, the human experience is what generates value in property. So if you can provide positive experience, they will want to repeat that experience, because we are creatures of habit, and we like our dopamine and all those other things, the good things in the brain. And so from you can say that we are a bit of manipulators and psychologists, moonlighting as property managers as well. But that is what you have to be. And if you want to keep bringing people back, you have to focus on the people element of it. In addition, of course, we've talked about the quality of things, and I really want to touch on quality for quite a bit. And it's the quality around the product because property is a bit of a product, and you curate an experience. When you walk into a property or any kind of infrastructure, it should feel seamless, like exhaling. So you start looking at the elements around convenience and aesthetic. Of course, there's that. Whether it's digital or it's physical, both important. If it's physical, you want to be as particular around managing the things around smell, and is it safe? When you then look at the resources that are sitting there, we have a lot of focus around the quality of water, of power, even around waste quality as well, and air quality as well. So we already expect these things to be supplied in many markets, but I think it's, we must be mindful that there obviously are parts of some countries, or rather there are parts of in many countries where the goal is still centered around, guaranteeing availability and security around those resources. But everywhere else, the supply is there, but we need to shift our focus to the quality of what is being supplied. When I think about the investor kind of feedback on appetite to start looking at it, you have to step back and say, what is the point of property investment? And essentially it comes down to investing in a bundle of rights. Now, we traditionally looked at those as a brick and mortar kind of thing. Then there was, unlisted, but unitized or syndicated or, whatever it is that was sitting out there. But actually the packaging of it has expanded quite a lot. You'll recall that Toby earlier mentioned around, new asset or newer alternative asset classes that are picking up popularity. So she talked about student accommodation, hospitals, and so on. I would add also prisons and schools, but also your resource infrastructure itself, because that is also a form of a bundle of rights. Now, the exciting stuff that I like to get stuck into, because also it's on my job description, is around certain forms of triple Ps as well. And that is something that is, prevailing in the market, and it's something that is we're going to see a lot of that. And I love, what Toby said around partnerships. That is something that we really, really value. We value partnerships as a principle, and we value our partners. And the essence of that is it's critical to your triple P. So as participators and people with a good appetite for participating in triple Ps that are coming, we look for to get into. You don't want to say get into bed, but it's that kind of a thing. With people that we can say, hey, I think I'm going to like you in 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, So, I love that. And I love that we are looking at property a bit more laterally, and we're thinking about it as investors in a much broader way.
Great. Thank you for that, Muncie. And I think for everybody that is here, we are charting a course for the future of African real estate, along with the Broll Property team over here. Thank you for your questions. We will get to them a little bit later. I want to bring in now for Batabile, and this is a very important one. I think it's about the future of African real estate leadership. So Batabile, what do you believe the next generation of leaders in African real estate will need to have to succeed? What are the skills, what are the attributes and experiences in your mind that will be essential for navigating the changing landscape? Because that's what it is. It's changing all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I think the next generation of leaders won't succeed if they follow conventional methods. Our world is evolving far too quickly for that. Interestingly, the other day I saw on a friend's WhatsApp status that our ability to thrive in ambiguity, build resistance, and make decisions with imperfect information will be more important than what we know. It made me stop and think a little bit about, this question right now around what we need as a leadership. So I think building resilience will be essential, both from a corporate and a personal perspective. The idea around these perpetual adjustments and building our capacity for constant change, I think will be one of the most critical skills going into the next generation.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for sharing. I think it seems so important. So Tony, let's start understanding the unique context of the African market. So, and we know that Africa's real estate markets are diverse. They've got unique challenges and also various types of demand across regions. How has Broll adapted to the varying market conditions across the continent to ensure continued success? I think you just need to unmute yourself there,
sorry about
Tony.
that. Yeah,
no problem. No, it's all good.
Okay. You're very right there. Our various markets that we operate in are very diverse and primarily underpinned by cultural diversity. And so once we enter a market, one of the key strategic pillars that we would normally deploy is around the people. We prioritize the people. And as Malcolm amply put, it's all about nurturing local talent. And he said everything regarding that topic, that once we are able to nurture that local talent, we use that as the key driver to be able to now build the business around them. Because it's all through that that we're able to customize. And that is one of the key strategic pillars as well, that we customize the needs of our clients. And that is always through how we are able to use the people effectively. And I talk about customization because in certain regions where we have found that where Broll is in, we have found that there's a shift, or there's more of, say, our client base is more of high net worth individuals more than institutional investors. And for high net worth individuals, obviously their requirements are slightly different from institutional investors. With institutional investors, sometimes some of these are multinational brands, etc., and therefore we're able to now see exactly how we are able to serve them. But with the high net worth clients, obviously these are individuals or family trusts, and therefore we need to certainly curate something to be able to deal with their needs and their requirements. And another aspect that we also have to use is that we do blend technology with a human touch. And technology would normally underpin our strategy with respect to ensuring best practice and ensuring that our standard operating procedures are used across all our regions, because it's very critical that we maintain that service excellence. And it's only through that that we can ensure that we are meeting KPIs, that we are meeting our clients' expectations, and ensuring that we're also staying ahead of the curve. So those are the three strategic pillars that we used to build our business in the new regions or in emerging markets.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Tony. So, Amansi, we've spoken a lot about innovation. Now, we've seen as Broll has expanded its portfolio and services, what have been the key innovations that have helped the company cater to the different needs of both public and private sector clients across Africa?
From that perspective, I'd say the key thing is that we haven't painted the market with the same brush at all. And like Toby said, we approach every engagement as a partnership. And so our way is really to invest in understanding the client needs and customizing our people and the technology solutions to meet actual requirements, not the requirements that we think they should have, which is quite important. But, also like life is dynamic. Life and property are dynamic. So we keep learning, and I think that's the most important thing. So again, we've maintained that culture of curiosity and learning, and otherwise you kind of fall into the stagnated place. And we never want to be one of those entities that says, you must come to us and we will tell you what we're going to do for you, and you must be grateful. That's not how we operate.
Okay, wonderful. So, Malcolm, you've been far too quiet, so we've got to bring you in over here. So, let's talk about the lessons learned. I mean, there's 5 decades of lessons that could be learned here, which is incredible. So let's look back at the 50-year journey. I mean, what are the most valuable lessons that you believe have contributed to the company's success and longevity in such a competitive and evolving industry, which it is?
Thanks, Neil. I think one thing stands out, that tomorrow will most definitely be different from today. And the ability to embrace change is a culture that you need to encourage, you need to nurture, you need to create the environment where that is not an enemy, it's actually embraced as a friend. Because one thing is for sure, that market cycles change. And I think they change rapidly, as we've seen with the US elections. Recently, things can change overnight. But I mean, if you have teams that embrace change, and we have those teams across the continent, and it's how you take that with the diverse skill set that we've got, because that's the other key. You've got to have a diverse skill set. You must have people with a voice that you don't all say yes, that you're allowed to have a differing opinion to bring a solution to the table. We find that creates a dynamic, high-performance environment. And if you can manage to do that, I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned, is how do we get our teams invigorated, high performing? How do they think? How do they care? How do they bring innovation to the table? And I think that is at the heart of a lot of the lessons we've learned of why we're growing our business. The other lessons are to make sure that we are, as I think Mansi said, we really customize our solutions. We understand our client. We want to drive solutions to them so that we actually earn the space to be in the room where the client is. We're not just there because we're there. We're there because we're adding value and bringing a new dynamic to the conversation. Also, technology, I think, has been instrumental in our success. But the technology I'm talking about is technology where the operations of the business are actually directing the technology, because there is so much technology, there is so much data that everyone talks these terms, technology and data, drive me crazy with all of the
Absolutely.
technology and data. Just need to know the people and the skill sets that need to embrace technology, embrace data, do something with it. I think that stood us in good stead. And maybe the other thing is the obvious thing, long-term relationships. I mean, relationships, and people trust you. They trust your advice. They want to work with you because you can add value. And I think it talks to diversified talent, people in our business, and actually bringing and embracing change. And I think that is at the heart of a lot of the lessons that we've learned.
Wonderful. I think that's fantastic lessons. And I think anybody that is listening here should listen again. In fact, listen to the recording, because there is a recording, by the way. So we get this question a lot, everybody. So please, there is a recording. It will be on the REI website. We also send it through to Broll. I'm sure they might even pop it on their website. But anyway, so I think let's talk about Malcolm. You know, it's now 50 years, and I know end of last year was a record year, I understand. And, you know, let's look ahead. Let's say, you know, what is the vision now for the next 50 years? How do you see Broll continuing to lead and innovate in African real estate, and what key trends or opportunities do you anticipate shaping the future of the industry?
Thanks, Neil. Look, I think for us, it's about a legacy of leading. And what does a legacy of leading mean? And that's these gray hairs that you have on your head. And luckily, everyone, my team are all dyeing their hair and they're looking great. But I mean, it is about attracting critical thinkers and doers. So for me, it's about how do we have critical thinkers and doers that understand where the property sectors are going, where the property market is going, because I do believe that we're going to see a lot of change with technology in real estate, sustainability opportunities, custom-centric solutions. So in the workplace, more well-being with employees, and what are the opportunities around that? So does that lead to workspace solution opportunities? Does it lead to redesigning of office space solutions? The same as sustainability. What does it lead to? Does it lead to opportunities in energy, water, and sustainability business units actually evolving and morphing what we're doing now? And I think a lot of the built environment is going to change. A lot of the way people work is going to change, and to embrace that, whether it's through AI, whether it's through blockchain, whether it's through blockchain technologies on transactions, whether it's through smart buildings and smart cities, digital leasing tours, it doesn't matter what it is. There's a lot of that's happening, but I think we're going to see more of the human element coming into things, overlaid with technology, and you've got to make sure that your business is ready for that, and whichever property sector it would be, because I do think the traditional property, office, retail, and industrial are really going to be morphed by hospitality, residential, and I think Mansi alluded to a few of those sectors. And how do you make yourself able to add value and a difference in those environments? And I think it's an exciting space. I think it's a space where property brings talent to the fore. Property creates opportunity for many people. And I hope Broll can continue its legacy of leading and across the continent, adding value to economies and making sure that we actually make a difference in the areas in which we operate.
That's fantastic. It's such a pleasure just to see a business that is grown from, from little acorns to mighty oaks. It's just been incredible growth and really exciting. And it's been absolutely wonderful engaging with each and every single one of you. But before we go, we are almost on the deadly hour. What I would like to appreciate our audience, because we still got over 70 odd people that's still online. So I would like to deal with the questions. We've got 7 questions here, so I'd like to deal with it before we do end. And first one was from Quadro, and he said, how do you address the challenges of a depreciating currency and elevated inflation rates in markets such as Nigeria and Ghana, where dollar-based leases is the norm? This is a real concern for both lenders and innovators. Tony, it looks like a question which has been set up for you. Are you comfortable answering that?
Yes, I am. I mean, I'm actually something that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and therefore, obviously, I'm able to speak to that. Currency issues has always been a problem with our operations, particularly from the investment perspective. And we've had to look at it both on the day-to-day perspective and how we actually change the whole paradigm. We realized that the reason why we have had to resort to dollar-based leases is that we're getting investment in foreign currency, and therefore we're looking to change that. So what we're doing is that we're supporting, or Broll actually has supported local real estate investment trust, who are now investing back into these assets in local currency. That way it reduces or virtually eliminates the FX risks within the whole investment climate. And with that, obviously, it means that we are comfortable having to now deal with local currency leases. So that is the trend that we are able to embrace now to be able to address that problem.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And then, Lishlasla, insofar as student housing is concerned, are there opportunities on the continent within state-funded student housing rentals, or is this limited to private accommodation payers? Who wants to have a crack at that one? Anybody? Any takers?
Francis is probably the right person.
Well, it seemed to be Africa-centric, so I thought I'd give Tony a shot. But I think I sit in a lot of these purpose-built student accommodation conversations. And really the question or the answer is it's a blend. There's a huge underservicing. It's a sector that has been underserviced, not only from a supplies perspective, but also from a quality of what is supplied. Even in South Africa, where we have become quite formalized or commercialized in addressing these kind of shortfall issues. And now you have much easier back access to banking, DFIs, and so on in terms of the funding institutions. You still are struggling with obviously varying land costs affecting feasibility. And on top of that, you have a limited purse in terms of the contribution from the state funding towards the cost of occupation for the stipends, essentially for the students. And so you still require that blend of a private a top-up market or a cash market that's in there. But I think it's also around inclusive development. So when you look at your policies, conditions of development, and so on, the blending of those kind of government subsidized numbers versus the private market numbers, that's a principle that is quite important to incorporate into the thinking and execution of that. But going back to the original question on the continent, certainly there is opportunity, but you have to, it's not a universal comment, because really we're 54 countries, so let's be serious. So, but there is certainly room and appetite around government-backed funding as well as the private.
Perfect. Great. So we got a comment here from Rafulwa. Rafulwa Mkwena, she said, I was a property manager for Broll and managed shopping center in remote areas that I enjoyed. I think it's time we have open conversations about renewable energy that will empower and uplift the skill in the communities. Who wants to comment on that? Anybody?
I don't mind. Oh, there we go. Who's
Okay.
going to
No,
go for
go
it?
ahead.
Anyone? No, I think it's a great question because, you know, in our energy, water, and sustainability business, that's exactly what we are promoting. We want to promote localization. We need to promote it, and I think it's a very topical subject to create employment opportunities, reskilling opportunities in rural areas. And I think there are many initiatives that are on the go as we speak to do things, not only from companies like ours, but I think the government is doing a whole lot of initiatives as well. And I think it's an exciting space, and I think it's a real job creator into the future.
Okay, wonderful. Another question, Josiah. Do you want to add to that, Mansi?
Yes, please. So I think I just wanted to acknowledge the power of shopping centers in rural communities in particular. They don't just serve as a service point to come and do your shopping and all of those things. It's actually like a community amenity. And so that investment around keeping the lights on, keeping the internet on, and you know, having the base principle of that our shopping centers all will have internet, it actually becomes a bit of a commodity for the entire community. So it means you're extending that broadband penetration to underserviced areas. It becomes a skills hub center, and so the impact of it is actually a community asset. So and it's very nice to hear from one of our ex-Brollies. Thank you for putting us on the spot.
The ex-Brolly, yes, and it's only the ex-Brollies that'll put you on that spot. So, question over here, does the Broll Academy offer a mentorship program for young professionals? And if so, how can one join? Who handles that side?
We'll throw Malcolm under the bus.
Yeah, contact us, absolutely. We've got many mentorship programs, and we do embrace young professionals. So maybe, Neil, we can just pop an email address out there. And
Exactly. Absolutely.
Welcome to make
Yeah,
contact.
all the inquiries you can just say, we've got your details. In fact, Josiah, so we will make sure we'll be in touch, and that Broll get your details. So we will. So please, if anybody wants to reach out, just info@REI is the quickest. We'll ensure Broll gets the contact details, gets the inquiry, that it does come through. So thank you for that. And then, Tony, there's one for you. Are there local policies backed with incentives to attract investments in both student accommodation and residential housing?
Yes, there are, and in an indirect way, the government has actually passed certain laws which gives tax incentives, but you could only invest that or take advantage of that through investing in real estate investment trust, and that is one of the most tax efficient vehicles that one can use to invest in student housing, for example, and residential housing. With residential housing, there's been a lot of advocacy for the government to, or governments across Africa to try and waive certain taxes and import levies to reduce the cost of development. That is yet to see the light of day. But on the other hand, student housing, for example, benefits from quite a lot, because for most of the universities that we have, they're actually throwing in a lot of incentives, offering land for that sort of development so that we can address the shortages that are in the system.
Okay, excellent. Well answered. I'm going to take our very last question, and then I'm going to ask each of the panelists just to give your 30-minute wrap up, your last parting shots, your final thoughts. And it's from Josiah, and maybe I think it is a question for you, Malcolm, but it says, is Broll considering undertaking developments themselves as part of their diversification strategy, especially since they already have asset management capacity? I'm asking because some of the investors are developing and managing their own assets. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Malcolm.
And I think the answer is no, definitely not. We don't want to compete with our clients. We want to supplement and complement our clients. But I'm going to caveat that with the undertaking that if triple Ps come to the market, one might want to invest in a triple P. But other than that, no, we want to support clients. We want to support other developers other than ourselves, not to have a conflicted position.
Okay, great. I think good answer. Right, so we've come to the end of our webinar. It's been a fantastic, very fascinating discussion. And I'm going to ask each of our panelists just to give your, say, 30 minutes, and keep it to under a minute if you can. And just your parting shots, starting with you, Tony, just your final thoughts in terms of what somebody can take away from today's discussion.
What I'll say is that in this fast-paced environment, we've got to implement very agile work streams that has adaptability and is able to embrace change. I think Malcolm has spoken a lot, and Mansi also spoke a lot about it in terms of embracing change. It underpins everything with respect to the development paradigm that we are in now. So it's very important that we have talent and people that are able to now implement that sort of agile work stream that we can adapt to change effectively.
Excellent. Great. Thanks very much. Tony Sacheri is the CEO of Broll Ghana, Broll Property Group. And then Batabile, your closing thoughts, please.
So I would say upskill, collaborate, and diversify your asset classes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Batabile. Great. She's the Divisional Director, Cushman and Wakefield. Mansi, your final thoughts, please.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a punt at engaging with your audience. I understand that there's a lot of people here with a lot of money they don't know what to do with. But really, for Nod to recap on the importance of partnerships, that is the way of the future. For myself personally, I'm looking for strong strategic partnerships. So, like I said, I like my partners quite a lot. I might even love some. So maybe you're the next one. So call me.
Wonderful. That's a good way to end, Mansi. That's a great way to end. You've always got to keep the door open for new business continuously. So well done. I think, thank you. That's Mansi Moela. I hope I got that right. Group Head Public Sector of Broll Property Group. And there's a question I see before I hand it to Malcolm for his final words. Kevin, yes, there will be a recording. If you registered for this webinar, you will automatically get it. If you have not registered, you can get it on the rei.co.za website. It will be up on the homepage tomorrow already, so you can access it there. And to our audience that has kept on, they stayed very patient throughout. Final words from you, Malcolm, your final parting shots. I think it's been, as I said, a fascinating conversation, really in depth and incredible team. Congratulations on 50 years. Your final thoughts, please.
Thanks, Neil. And look, I'm not going to repeat anything my team said, but I think you've seen, for me, it's about the passion. So waking up in the morning, it's not a hardship to do what we do. And I think that's a trait that is amazing with our people in our business, and just believing in yourself and finding the talent in the industry to join a business like ours that we can mentor, we can get the skill sets that are needed for tomorrow, and actually continue the legacy of leading in this industry. So for me, it's about, if you're listening, let me do the Mansi punt. If you're listening out there and you're talented and you want to join a business like ours, feel free, engage with us.
Wonderful. Please. And do that. I encourage your audience to do that, to engage. We've got your details. We will pass them on through to the Broll team, who probably will be in touch. And if you don't, stick your hand up. You've got to. You've got it. If you want to move forward, you've got to grow. I think it's been a fascinating discussion. Once again, I want to thank the Broll team, Malcolm and his team, and for a really in-depth, wonderful discussion. And to you, the audience, thank you for being such a patient audience and also being very engaging. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for your participation. Other to say that to our audience that next week, we're back at the same time, Thursday, the 6th of March. And we're talking about the Expropriation Act, and we're going to unpack that and the economic, social, and property market implication, a big topic at the moment. And we've got some very interesting panelists on that one. So, but first of all, I just want to say to you once again, thank you to the Broll team. It's been an absolute fantastic discussion, fascinating, great in depth. Thank you once again to you, the audience. And I would just like to say to each and every single one of you, please reach out. If you want to reach out to anyone at Broll, please reach out. And want to take your business to the next level, you've got great partners in Broll. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is Neil Peterson alongside the Broll team. Thank you for joining us, and great celebrations for 50 years, and wish you all the best for the next 50 years going forward. Neil Peterson and the Broll team signing out. Thank you for joining us, everybody.